the rainforest breathes. It is a living, breathing entity, a vast green lung for our planet. Within its depths, a quiet drama unfolds every single day. The ancient trees, which have stood for centuries, are falling. They fall to the chainsaw. They fall to the bulldozer, making way for palm oil plantations, making way for other human endeavors. And as they fall, so do the lives that depend on them. The orangutans, the gentle red-haired people of the forest, are losing their homes at an alarming rate. Their world is shrinking. Their food sources are disappearing. Their families are being torn apart by the relentless march of deforestation. This is the silent plea that echoes through the dwindling canopies of Borneo. This is the silent plea that echoes through Sumatra. I will never forget the day we met Budi. He was just a tiny baby, but his condition was among the worst I have ever witnessed. He had spent the first year of his life locked in a small chicken cage, fed only on condensed milk. His body was swollen with fluid from severe malnutrition. His limbs were misshapen because he had never had the chance to move or climb. When his owner finally surrendered him, Budi could not even sit up on his own. He would cry in pain at the slightest touch, his small face contorted in agony. It was a heart-wrenching sight, a stark reminder of the cruelty these gentle creatures can face. Budi's journey to recovery was painstakingly slow. Our veterinary team worked around the clock, providing him with the critical medical care he so desperately needed. The first time Budi tasted a piece of fruit, it was a major victory. Slowly, ever so slowly, a flicker of trust began to ignite in his sad eyes. Soon he began to develop the strength to pull himself up. We placed him in a hammock, his innate orangutan instincts slowly awakening. Jalita's rescue was different, but no less tragic. She was found wandering alone on the edge of a vast palm oil plantation, thin and disoriented. We can only imagine the terror she felt as she witnessed her mother's death and the destruction of her home. The trauma was etched onto her very being. When our rescue team approached her, she did not fight or flee. She simply sat, rocking back and forth, a vacant look in her eyes. The breakthrough with Jalita came through the patient and persistent efforts of her dedicated caregiver. She would speak to Jalita in soft, soothing tones, telling her stories, singing gentle songs. One day, she stopped rocking and looked directly at her caregiver. A few days later, she tentatively reached out a hand, not to take food, but to gently touch the caregiver's arm. From that day forward, Jalita's progress was remarkable. She started to accept food from her caregiver's hand, eventually allowed gentle grooming, and began to show curiosity in the other orphans. The day she engaged in her first wrestling match with another young orangutan, our entire team felt a wave of joy and relief. Jalita was learning to be an orangutan again. A rehabilitation center is so much more than a sanctuary. It is a bustling, complex school for orangutans. The curriculum is designed to teach the orphans all the skills their mothers would have taught them in the wild. The daily routine is carefully structured to promote their physical and cognitive development. Mornings begin early with a nutritious breakfast, fruits, milk, providing the energy they need for a busy day of learning. After their meal, the younger orangutans are taken to the forest school, a designated area of protected forest, where they can practice their skills in a safe and supervised environment. The orangutans learn to climb. They practice moving from branch to branch, testing the strength of vines. They learn to identify and forage for over 200 different types of edible forest foods, including fruits, leaves, bark, and insects. The heart and soul of any orangutan rehabilitation center are the caregivers. These dedicated individuals are more than just staff. They become surrogate mothers to the traumatized orphans in their charge. Female caregiver gently grooming a young orangutan resting in her lap. Their work is not a job, but a calling, demanding immense patience. They prepare meals. They clean enclosures. They administer medicine. Their most important role is providing love and emotional support. They wipe away tears. They offer comforting hugs. They celebrate every small victory. They share in the heartbreak when an orphan is too sick. They teach them. They protect them. They nurture them. Then they love them enough to let them go. The caregivers are the unsung heroes of orangutan conservation. The journey through forest school is a progressive one mirroring the natural stages of an orangutan's development. It begins in the nursery, where the youngest infants receive round-the-clock care. They are encouraged to climb on low ropes and play structures, developing their motor skills and building muscle strength in a safe environment. As the orangutans grow stronger and more confident, they graduate to the next level of forest school. At this stage, the world really opens up for them. They face taller trees, more complex vines, and a much wider variety of potential foods. They watch the older, more experienced orangutans and learn by imitation. They might see an older peer successfully open a tough fruit or build a rudimentary nest, and then they will try to replicate the behavior themselves. Another vital lesson is nest building. They must learn which branches will hold their weight and which will not. They might slip and fall, and this is a part of the learning process. The caregivers supervise these excursions closely, ensuring safety while allowing freedom to explore. Success in forest school is measured by increasing independence. We look for signs that an orangutan is spending more and more time in the trees rather than on the ground. The ultimate sign of progress is when an orangutan consistently builds its own sturdy nest to sleep in at night. When they start to show these behaviors, and when they display a healthy caution towards unfamiliar humans, we know they are getting closer to being ready for the final step, returning to a truly wild forest. The decision to release an orangutan back into the wild is never taken lightly. It is the culmination of years of dedicated care and careful assessment. They must be in peak physical health, free from any diseases that could harm them or the wild population. They must have mastered all the necessary survival skills, climbing with confidence, identifying and foraging for a wide range of natural foods, building a secure nest. Crucially, they must also exhibit a natural wariness of humans. Once an orangutan is deemed ready, the logistical challenge of the release begins. We must select a suitable release site, a protected, pristine area of rainforest with abundant resources. The orangutan is carefully placed in a special transport cage for the journey, which can take many hours, often involving car, boat, and finally, on foot through dense jungle terrain. Our team accompanies them every step of the way, monitoring their stress levels and ensuring comfort. The transport cage is carried to the release point deep within the forest. The cage door is opened. Sometimes the orangutan hesitates. Other times they bound out without a second glance. They ascend the nearest tree, climbing higher and higher until they are just a flash of red against the leaves. For weeks and sometimes months, a post-release monitoring team tracks the orangutan's progress to ensure successful adaptation. The greatest measure of our success is not the release itself, but what happens afterwards. It is in the quiet moments of observation, weeks or months later, when we see a released orangutan thriving in their natural habitat. I remember one such individual, a female named Wati. After her release, our monitoring team tracked her for months. They reported she was an expert forager. They also called her a meticulous nest builder. Nearly a year later, the most incredible news arrived. They spotted her with a tiny, wild-born infant clinging to her chest. She had integrated into the wild population. She had started a family of her own. Wati's baby, born in the freedom of the canopy, will never know a cage. It will never know the trauma of being an orphan. Released females have raised multiple offspring, becoming experienced, wonderful mothers. We've even seen released individuals teaching their wild-born young unique problem-solving skills. These observations provide invaluable data. They help us refine and improve rehabilitation and release programs. The journey of each rescued orangutan, from the depths of despair to the freedom of the forest canopy, is a powerful story of hope. It is a narrative of resilience, compassion, and the enduring power of the will to live. The stories of Budi, Jalita, Wati, countless others show recovery is possible. Not just statistics in a conservation report. They are intelligent, emotional beings who have overcome incredible odds. As long as the forests fall, orangutans will be orphaned and displaced. The most important work is protecting their remaining habitat. Make conscious choices as consumers, support frontline organizations, demand corporations and governments prioritize environmental health. Look into the eyes of an orangutan. Deep, ancient wisdom, quiet intelligence, the soul of the rainforest. Let us not be the generation that lets that light be extinguished. ensure the canopies of Borneo and Sumatra always echo with orangutans swinging through the trees.